few years ago, I couldn't have imagined that I'd be sharing my life's turmoil with strangers, but here I am. My name is Alina, and I'm 25 years old. Reflecting on the past decade of my life feels like flipping through the pages of a tumultuous novel, one filled with love, betrayal, and the painful echoes of history repeating itself. When I was 16, my family was torn apart. My parents, Maria and David, got divorced after my father admitted to a months-long affair with a woman from his department named Laura. The revelation was like a bomb dropping in the middle of our lives. My mother, who was 43 at the time, was the epitome of kindness and gentleness. She had always been my rock, my primary caregiver, and the emotional backbone of our family. Seeing her utterly devastated broke something inside me. Laura was everything my mother was not: shallow, immature, and seemingly indifferent to the wreckage she caused. She was 41 but acted like a teenager, flaunting her new role as my father's wife mere weeks after the divorce was finalized. I refused to attend their small wedding, unable to bear the sight of them together. Living in the same small town meant that I couldn't escape their presence entirely. On weekends, when I was supposed to stay with my dad, I often locked myself in my room, avoiding any interaction with Laura. She tried to play the role of the doting stepmother, but to me, she was just the woman who helped destroy my family. Fast forward 9 years, and I find myself in a situation eerily reminiscent of my mother's. I've been with my partner, Michael, for 6 years, and we have 2 beautiful children together, Lily, who's 4, and Noah, who's 2. My mother keeps asking when we'll finally tie the knot, even offering to take me wedding dress shopping. But I keep delaying, unsure if this relationship is even salvageable. Michael and I have the same recurring issues over and over again. I don't feel respected by him. The only time he touches me is inappropriately, never with tenderness or affection. I've stopped being intimate with him because I don't feel loved or desired in a meaningful way. He's only ever bought me flowers once, after I begged him on Mother's Day, just days after giving birth to Noah. Attempts to communicate my feelings are met with silence or empty apologies. He used to say sorry until I told him that the word means nothing without action. Now he doesn't even bother pretending to apologize. I haven't spoken to him or kissed him in 5 days, ever since he threw a tantrum about me making plans to have a night in with my friends. I wanted to stay over at a friend's place to relax and play video games, something I rarely get to do. He was upset that he'd have to watch the kids, even though I've lost count of how many times he's left me alone with them to go out drinking, sometimes not returning until the next afternoon. This morning, I found myself staring into the mirror, a wave of déjà vu washing over me. I saw my mother's eyes, the same hurt, the same exhaustion. I remembered how she tried to hide her tears from me, telling me to go out with friends so I wouldn't see her break down. I used to think I'd never let anyone treat me the way my father treated her, yet here I am. A week ago, Michael went out with a new friend of his, someone I'd met briefly, a shifty guy named Ryan. They were supposed to watch a boxing match, and Michael said he'd stay at Ryan's place afterward, which was fine by me. But when I FaceTimed him the next morning so the kids could say hi, something was off. The background didn't look like Ryan's place. He quickly ended the call, claiming bad reception. Later, I heard voices, female voices, in the background during a phone call he accidentally didn't hang up properly. When he finally came home that afternoon, he was evasive. I asked him who was there the night before, and he mumbled something about just the guys, but his story didn't add up. He smelled different, like a mix of cheap perfume and guilt. My heart sank. Was history repeating itself? Was I now in my mother's shoes, dealing with a partner who couldn't stay faithful? I confronted him, and he stumbled over his words, offering over-the-top apologies and swearing he'd never do anything to ruin what we have. But trust is a fragile thing, and mine was already cracked. I decided to check his phone, a boundary I had never crossed before. He always kept it clean, deleting messages and browsing in incognito mode. But I noticed a late-night call to a number I didn't recognize. When I asked him about it, he couldn't give me a straight answer. I felt a mixture of anger, betrayal, and a deep sadness. How did we get here? How did I let my life mirror the very situation that tore my family apart years ago? That evening, I called my mom. We sat on her porch, sipping tea as the sun set. I told her everything about Michael, about the kids, about the nagging feeling that I was reliving her past mistakes. She listened quietly, her eyes reflecting a pain that was all too familiar. "Alina," she said softly, "you are not me, and Michael is not your father, but you have to decide what you want for yourself and your children." "I don't want them to grow up in a broken home," I whispered. "Sometimes," she said, placing a hand over mine, "staying in a toxic relationship does more harm than good. You deserve to be loved, to be respected. Don't settle for less because you're afraid of starting over." Her words resonated with me. I thought about Lily and Noah, about the kind of example I wanted to set for them. I didn't want my daughter to think that this is what she should expect from a partner, nor did I want my son to believe that this is how he should treat women. That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I sat down with Michael. "We need to talk," I began, my voice steady. He looked up, a mixture of annoyance and apprehension on his face. "What now?" "I'm not happy," I stated plainly, "and I don't think you are either." He scoffed. "So what? All couples have rough patches. This isn't a rough patch. This is a cycle, and it's one I can't keep living in." He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic." "Maybe I am," I conceded, "but I need more than this. Our children need more than this." He was silent for a moment before muttering, "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing," I replied. "I just wanted you to know that I'm leaving." He looked up sharply. "You're what?" "I'm moving back in with my mom. I think we need time apart to figure things out." "You're overreacting," he snapped. "You're going to break up our family over some paranoid delusion?" I felt a surge of anger but kept my composure. "I'm not making this decision lightly, but I can't ignore how I feel any longer." He stood up abruptly. "Fine, go, but don't expect me to come running after you." I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. "I hope you find what makes you happy." Packing up the children's things and my own was both heartbreaking and liberating. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the house we had shared, the home that held so many memories, both good and bad. Back at my mom's place, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The kids settled in quickly, delighted to spend more time with their grandmother. Over the next few weeks, I started to rebuild. I enrolled the kids in a nearby preschool, resumed my studies, and even reconnected with old friends. One afternoon, as I was unpacking a box of old photos, I came across a picture of my parents and me from before everything fell apart. We looked so happy, so unaware of the storms that lay ahead. I realized then that life is unpredictable, and while we can't control the actions of others, we can choose how we respond. A few days later, Michael reached out. He wanted to talk, to see the kids. We met at a neutral place, a park we used to take the kids to. "I miss you," he admitted, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. "I miss the us we used to be," I replied honestly. "I'm willing to try counseling," he offered. "I want to make this work." I considered his words. "I'm open to that," I said slowly, "but it will take time and effort from both of us." As we sat watching Lily and Noah play, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this wasn't the end, but rather a new beginning, a chance to break the cycle and build something stronger. Only time will tell where this path leads us, but for now, I'm choosing to believe that change is possible, that people can grow, and that the past doesn't have to define the future.